Whatcha readin'? And we are librarians in the Charlotte County Libraries and History Division, and we are here to share with you what we are reading this month.
Oh, okay. I am Melanie from the Punta Gorda Charlotte Library.
I am Miss Liz, also from the Punta Gorda Charlotte Library.
I'm Miss Hannah. I work at the Mid-County Regional Library.
And I'm Miss Ashley. I work at the Port Charlotte Public Library.
So these are all books that we read this month or recently and thought they were so good that we wanted to talk about them with each other so that we can find the next book that we want to read.
Yes.
And also, we'd love to hear from you. If you've read anything good, let us know about it. We'll have our list of stuff up on our website so you can refer to the Charlotte County Libraries and History website and our Facebook page, and you should be able to find the list of all these books.
And please put in the comments any books, again, of what you have read recently, because we might add those to our reading list.
Right.
And we'll get back to you on what we think about them.
All right, who wants to start?
I'll start.
All
Okay.
right, Melanie.
So, I'll start with this one. Okay, so I read this one recently. It's called A Little Something Different, and it's by Sandy Hall. And this is a love story from 14 perspectives,
Whoa.
but the main two characters that are part of the love story don't have any perspectives in it. So it's from
Weird.
everyone. Yeah, it's everyone observing them, like falling in love. Like there's a bench. There's a perspective from a bench, and he's looking for the perfect butt. And it's really cute because the guy sits on it and he's like, finally, the perfect butt. And so you hear all of these conversations that are happening with everyone else except the two main people. So it's really cool
That's
to see.
intriguing.
There's
That
the bus driver, the teacher, a squirrel that she feeds all the time. So it's really cute, and it's set in college. They're freshmen in college, so it's really, really cute. I like that one a lot.
Oh, I can't wait to read that. It's going to make me think. Every time I sit on a bench, it's going to make
Yeah.
me think of that.
Oh, that's funny. Cool.
All right, I will go next. One that I've read and I'm rereading, and I love it dearly. It is The Line Tender by Kate Allen, and this is her debut juvenile fiction novel that came out in 2019, and it's very precious and dear to my heart. It is about a young girl, and you find out early on, so it's no surprise, that her mother passed away a couple years ago. She was a marine biologist studying sharks, and she has a brain aneurysm, and so it's how her dad have kind of like accepted the death and the tumultuous relationship that they have now where he's not really home. But it's also about like a first romance. And so, there's this cute boy that she's been best friends with across the street. His name is Fred. And so how that kind of gets started. And then something happens, and you'll have to read it to find out. But it's how everyone in the community comes together and how they're dealing with grief and death. And she's trying to continue her mother's memory by completing this shark project that she was working on. And it is a really beautiful book. And what's fun is in between each chapter, if you can see,
Oh, wow, that's really
there
pretty.
is a double-page illustration of different types of sharks. And it is called The Line Tender, and it is gloriously beautiful. And this is my own copy that I bought.
Nice. That's how you know you love a book. If
Yes.
you're a librarian, you buy the book.
Yes, so
Great.
it's beautiful.
Cool. Have you read her other stuff?
No, so I know this was her first book last year, and I don't know if she has anything else yet.
Okay.
But it's a good one.
Nice. All right, so I'm going to talk about these two at once because it's a duology, I guess.
Oh, cool.
This is the first one, The War That Saved My Life. This was a Sunshine State book from last year, actually 2017. So it's been a couple years. But I think I just read it for the first time last year, and I loved it. So it was targeted for the 6th through 8th grade, but I think anybody could read it. It's so good. So basically, the main character's name is Ada, and she's 10, and she's living in London during World War II, and they decide that they think London's going to get bombed, and so they evacuate all the children that are living there. And so she and her brother go and live in the countryside with like a foster type person. And basically you find out in the beginning that she's been like locked in this room and for her whole life, she's spent it locked in a room, and she has a club foot, so it's kind of like possibly her mother was like ashamed of her or something like that. And so she knows nothing about the world or what to expect out of a normal life or countryside life or whatever. And so it's kind of her realizing that she has not had a good life up to this point, and learning to love people and learning to accept her club foot and stuff like that. It's so good.
That sounds so good.
And of course, it's during World War II, so there's that going on.
It sounds like I'll cry.
Yes.
Yes.
it does.
You will,
Okay.
you will cry.
I cried a little bit. And then, of course, the sequel, The War I Finally Won. So, title kind of gives it away. It's a happy ending, but really good, really, really good. And the war's going on the whole time in both books. So I recommend it.
All right. Well, to balance out the cry fest, I will pick
Thank goodness.
an oldie but a goodie. It's The Lovely Reckless by Cami Garcia. The Lovely Reckless. And it's a fast-paced and exciting novel about a girl who transfers into a school where it's a little more nitty-gritty, and everybody's into fast cars, and she actually goes into shop class.
Not
And
cooking.
obviously,
but-
I've never done that. And she learns to take apart cars and put them back
that's
together
cool.
and stuff. So it's neat because she gets into this whole world of street racing, and the book is just so fast paced, and so it just comes to a crescendo at the very end. It's awesome, and the romance is a bit hard to get and kind of saucy and fun. I enjoy it very much. So,
Cool.
that's one.
Okay, so something that is not going to make you cry or romantic at all. This is called All Your Twisted Secrets by Diana Urban. And it's kind of like Breakfast Club meets the Saw movies.
Oh, no.
It's awesome. So it's like these 6 kids, so it's like the preppy cheerleader, the sports guy, the school like loner. They all get a scholarship, so they're all going to a scholarship dinner, and they get there and they realize that like the door's locked and they can't open it, and then they see like this cloche and they lift it up and there's like a syringe and a bomb inside and a note that says either choose one of you to die or you all die when the bomb goes off. So like they're like, who did this? Why are we here? So they start thinking, and it goes back a couple days and tells you like what led up to this, and they're trying to figure out who would set them up. And it has like a crazy twist at the ending when you find out like what really happened and if they all die or not. So
Oh my
this
gosh.
one is so much fun. I
That's
love
like an
this
escape
book.
room
Sounds-
on steroids.
Yeah, it's like,
Sounds
it's
like
like an
it'll keep
escape
me
room.
up all
It's
night.
amazing. I loved it. I read it in one day, and it's like a pretty big book. So yeah, definitely recommend it.
Awesome.
Whoa. All right. So to balance off a horror story, I have The Singing Bones, written by Sean Tan. He is an author from Melbourne, Australia. It has a fascinating foreword by Neil Gaiman, and then it's introduced by Jack Zipes. And Jack Zipes gives you a little bit of history about the Brothers Grimm. So what Sean Tan did, and when you look at it, for example, the one I'm on right now, he gives you about a paragraph from one of the Brothers Grimm stories, and then he made different clay illustrations or portraitures or
Like
sculptures.
actual sculpture, right?
Yeah, to go along with the story. So the one for Rapunzel is really neat.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool.
And so sometimes it's a lighter take on the story or a darker take on the story. But these are all different tales by the Brothers Grimm. So that's what's really, really fascinating. But Jack Zipes, what he does after the foreword by Neil Gaiman is he gives you a breakdown of the Brothers Grimm history. So where they were born, where they grew up, how they got into the German dictionary and grammar book that they were trying to put together, and the folk tales, because they wanted to preserve the literature. But there weren't any pictures. It was very dry stories. And so then someone else took them and submitted pictures, and then it kind of evolved into what we know as the Brothers Grimm tales. But they were both librarians at one time, which I thought was fascinating. I'm like, oh, cool. So just little snippets. And then just very intriguing clay sculptures. So, I mean, they're cute, not cute, but they're short snippets. and it's
Right, so
fascinating.
every page is just the paragraph or two and the sculpture, and then you're on to the next story?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
the fox and the cat. So there's a paragraph, this really intriguing sculpture, and then it's something different.
Cool.
So it
And
kind
then
of like
at the end
sets
there's
it
some
up,
text.
so you're like wanting to know more about it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
is it
That's
just
cool.
like starting each story, or is it like a
No,
summary of
it's-
the story?
It's a random paragraph
Okay, just
from
From
the
the story?
thing.
Any
Oh,
random
that's
paragraph.
Yep,
cool.
so the one for example, let's do Hansel and Gretel, because everyone's familiar with that one. Do-do-do-do-do. So it says, the roof was made of cake, and it tasted so good that Hansel ripped off a large piece and pulled it down, while Gretel pushed out a round piece of the sugar window pane, sat and ate it with great relish. Suddenly the door opened, and a very old woman, leaning on a crutch, came slinking out of the house. Hansel and Gretel were so tremendously frightened that they dropped what they had in their hands. But the old woman wagged her head and said, well now, dear children, who brought you here? Just come inside and stay with me. Nobody's going to harm you. And then there's that picture.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, it's creepy and fascinating, and I've greatly enjoyed reading it. So, it's a YA nonfiction.
Nice,
Awesome.
and that's perfect for, like, if you don't want to sit and read for like a long time.
Right.
You know, sometimes we'll say we read the whole thing in one sitting, but sometimes you only have a few minutes, and that's
Mhm.
perfect for that.
So, yeah, they're cute little snippets. So,
Neat.
Yep.
That's very neat.
Okay. So next I'm going to talk about Prairie Lotus by Linda C. Park.
I
This
love
is
the
another
drawing.
juvenile fiction.
on my
Apparently
list.
juvenile fiction's been calling me this month, but it's a historical fiction. Linda C. Park's written a bunch of different books. She wrote A Single Shard, which won the Newbery Medal, and A Long Walk to Water. A bunch of other pretty classic kids' books, but this is a newer one that just came out this year. Pretty sure it was this year. Yes, in March. So she's a Chinese American main character. I think she's like 12 or something like that, and you start out the story, she's traveling with her dad from California to the Midwest. I think they go to like South Dakota is where they end up. And so you kind of see what it's like for a Chinese person in that time, which is, I guess I didn't say, is I think it was like the 1880s. So she really wants to be a seamstress, like to have her own clothing shop and make custom clothing for people. And her mother did that, and it was, I guess it was fine in San Francisco, but once you head into the Midwest, there's a lot more people that are like, I'm not letting a Chinese person do that for me, you know? So it's kind of like her fighting to go to school because they didn't expect girls to finish school at that time, and then starting a business. So
It's really interesting.
was
That's
really
a
good.
perspective you don't normally get to see.
I know.
in
I love
that
reading
era.
about different characters and exposing my kids. I read it to my kids, and so
It's
they
on my
really
to-read
liked it.
list, so
Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
good.
Sounds like a good transitional novel too. She's on the cusp of
Yeah.
teenhood. Okay. All right. I'll pick the newest one, Talk Nerdy to Me from Bookish Boy Friends. You might
Talk Nerdy
remember
to Me.
this from our unboxing video when we did our teen book previews. This is the newest one. Actually, not totally. It came out in July. But it's newest to me. Newest to me. It is newest to me.
The newest one in the series.
I
probably.
actually finished this. When did I finish this? At 3 or 4 a.m. last night.
Oh my goodness.
Or this morning. Yes, I couldn't put it down, and I really wanted to finish it so I could talk about it. But it's about this girl named Eliza who meets a guy named Curtis, and it's part of a series, and I didn't realize that at the time. So it's like the third or fourth book in the series. So some of the characters you should already know, but you don't. So it was a little confusing at first, but the gist is the guy is kind of a troublemaker or class clown. He's joking all the time, and Eliza's very serious. She's got scientist parents. She got parents. Yeah. Her parents are scientists, and they've already won the Nobel Prize.
Oh my gosh.
They
Oh,
are
okay.
big. They are moguls in the science community. So, and they are never in her life because they're in Antarctica doing their studies, and they are remote parenting.
Wow.
So they have her wear a little wristband,
Oh,
like
wow.
an iLive wristband, that tells them all of her vitals and everything, so they know when she's upset and they know when she's exercising, and they have her on these
that'd be
crazy
awful.
routines.
I
It is. It's terrible. And then what I really loved about this is there's a teacher in this series. Oh, I can't remember her name, but she actually match makes with books. She's a matchmaker with books,
Cool.
and she
So a
has this-
librarian, basically.
basically, yeah. She's an English teacher in this one. And she uses book assignments to match up teens. It's really cute. And Eliza chooses to read Frankenstein. And the teacher warns her, like, you probably don't want to read that one because you'll start to see some similarities in your own life. And she does, and it gets really sad and dark for a
Oh,
while.
wow.
Oh.
Yes, but then she discovers Anne of Green Gables.
I love that book.
And it leads her to a guy named Curtis. And it's just wonderful.
It sounds adorable.
And I can't wait to read all of the other ones. I already have them on hold.
So you would recommend starting with probably
Yes,
the first one?
definitely start with the first one because it was a
Because I
little
know some
confusing
series you can
at
jump
first.
in and out
Yes.
of.
Yeah.
But
And there was one girl in there, her name is Mary. I want to read her story because she sounds like an awesome person.
Nice.
Yes.
all right, intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this book is called Broken Things by Lauren Oliver, and it's about these three best friends that are obsessed with this series called The Way to Lovelorn. Yes, The Way into Lovelorn. So it's like a fantasy book within the book, and they grew up with it, and they love it so much that it like comes real to them. So the villain in the book like follows them into real life, and early on you find out that one of the girls was murdered, and they think that their friends did it, but they're convinced that it was the villain from the book that they love so much. So they got in trouble, but they didn't go to jail for it, kind of thing. So this book is them trying to prove that they're innocent, like that they didn't do it and that it was the villain from the book. And so now they're in high school. It happened when they were like in elementary school or early middle school, I think. So now they're in high school and they're about to graduate, and they're trying to clear their names before the end of the school year. So it's very, very good. I love it.
With the characters coming alive and out of the book, it reminds me a little bit of Inkheart
Yes,
by
yeah.
Cornelia Funke.
Yeah, that's a really good book too.
All right.
All right, let me jump in and talk about The Air Affair. So this is a sequel that just came out. Right? This is the sequel.
Yes, yeah, that's
Yes.
the sequel.
The Royal We is the first one. I was looking at it, I was like, this is the first one. No. The Royal We is the first book, which came out a couple years ago. I don't think you necessarily have to read both, but I recommend them both. They're kind of lengthy, so it's kind of just like a fun take on British royalty, I guess. I think it basically really reminds me of Kate Middleton. So the main character is an American, and she goes to Oxford and accidentally meets the prince, and it's their whole love story about how they get married and how that works out. And now, of course, the second one, The Air Affair, they're trying to have an heir, a baby, but having some trouble there. So anyway, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of like, I really love learning about like the logistics of how things work. Like, I don't know, you get to see sort of like what you think the inside story might be on the monarchy and all that stuff, and I think it's great. It's awesome
Sounds
reading.
And
So
you said the first one's The Royal We.
The Royal We.
I think someone recommended that one to me a while ago.
did.
You,
I did, yeah.
So
love
the
that.
reason why I love these authors is because they have an amazing website called Go Fug Yourself. Sorry, it's a little rude sounding, but basically it's they're hysterical, and they look at celebrities' clothing. So it's totally just for fun, but they
Throw shade.
they just look at like movie premieres or whatever, celebrities that are out and about, which in the time that we're living in right now, there's not a lot going on, but before they would analyze people's clothes and stuff, and they wrote this book, and I was like, I have got to check that out, and they're great. They're really good.
It's really cool. It reminds me there's a YA book that came out recently. I think the second one's about to come out, and it's called American Royals.
Yes,
And it's
I want to read that one.
It's about what would happen if George Washington was made king instead of president.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like his descendants, like in modern time, like they're descended from Washington the First, and it's actually really cool. It's like has the drama and stuff too. So.
Yeah,
I love
you did
those
read it,
reimaginings
I
of
read that one. Yeah.
and it was good.
Yeah,
I
it was
definitely
really good.
have that on my list.
All right. Okay, we're going to go from romance to more romance. Sorry.
Just stick with the
mainly
romance.
I mainly read romance. So I love this book. It's Heartless by Marissa Mayer. I love everything
so
by
good.
Marissa
I
Mayer.
follow her on Twitter.
I love
Yes,
that book.
she's
That
so
book is
good.
so good.
This is her best, I think.
It is.
I have to
It
say.
really is.
And it is a reimagining of Alice in Wonderland series, but it doesn't focus on Alice, because we already know about Alice, and I kind of find her boring anyway. I want to know about the evil Queen of Hearts. How did she become the evil Queen of Hearts? And that's what this book is about,
It's so
Heartless.
good.
And it is wonderful. It gives you all the feels. And
It
then
really
some.
does.
Oh, it's so good.
That's great.
I like the Red Queen.
Yeah. Did any of you guys read the Suzanne Collins book that just came out? That was like a prequel to the Hunger
Yes.
Games.
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either.
I didn't like it. I was so sad.
I feel like it's the same kind of thing because you're looking at President Snow and kind of like how he became the way that he is, and I was like, this is terrible. So
Really?
that sounds like a much better
That one is
retelling of
way
a
better.
villain origin story.
I think she's great about doing that too, because she does that in the Lunar Chronicles too, with the
Cinder and
yes,
yeah.
what was her name? I forgot her name. The evil one. It's been so long.
Lady
since I read
Tremaine.
it.
Lady Tremaine.
Lady Germain.
Yes, Tremaine. Yeah, that's
Tremaine.
the evil stepmother.
Yes, and I loved that one. She does a very brief novella of how she became the evil
That's
Lady
cool.
Germain, and it was, oh God, it's heartrending. It's horrible, but it's also really good. And then I have one more because just Marissa Mayer, might as well throw this in. Renegades. This is a trilogy, and it's a really good one.
Is the third one out?
Supernova?
Supernova. Yes.
Yes,
The
yes,
third
I
one's out,
just-
yes.
I just
Nice. So
listened
all
to
three
it.
are out.
Yes.
I love
It
being
was
able to read
great.
them back to back to back.
I love it. Sometimes
having
with a
to wait.
trilogy, I find that with newer trilogies, I find it's difficult to get a good second book. You get the
Yes.
first book and you're so excited, and then the second book, not so good. Not with this series. This series, the second book is just as fast-paced and energetic and great as the first book. And then the ending, man, she knocks it out of the park. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so many retellings that people have. Like the Heartless is about the evil Queen of Hearts, and then there's one called Stepsisters by Jennifer Donnelly, and it's what happens after the Brothers Grimm story of Cinderella's stepsisters. So it's like after they've cut their toes off to try and fit in the shoes, and like the crows like came, but they didn't peck their eyes out in this one, so it's a little bit more friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's
It'd
really
be too
good.
gory if they poked
Yeah.
their eyes out.
I like The Princess and the Hound. I don't remember who the author is, but it's a very different take on a little bit like, what is it, Beauty and the Beast? So you have a princess, and then you have her hound, and then there's a little / big twist. And I read it a while ago, and it was fabulous.
Cool.
And if you want a dark story about Rapunzel, it's called Zell, Z-E-L, which is, I believe, the German word for lettuce, because Rapunzel means lettuce. It's the relationship between her and Mother Gothel and how twisted and dark and gothic it is.
Oh, wow.
So it's a mind warp, but it's very, very good, and I loved reading it in middle school and high school.
You put that on my list.
Yes,
So
I will
the
get the author for you later.
Renegades is like superheroes
Yes,
that are in the city.
superheroes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, and they're revered. Instead of like in the X-Men where they have to hide all the time from humanity, they are revered by humanity. And except what I really love about Marissa Mayer's books is you can't always tell who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, because you see both sides, and that's what the Renegades is all about. Because you got the Renegades who are quote unquote the good guys, and then you've got the quote unquote bad guys, and I can't remember what they were called. Does anyone remember?
I've not read it.
Okay.
Isn't it the
Sorry.
arch something?
Anarchists, that's it, anarchists.
Okay, yeah.
And as you read through, you learn each character's stories, and you realize that there's good and bad in everybody, and that's what I love about those. I love all those kinds of stories where you really don't know who's the good guy and the bad guy. You just got to pick a side and go with it and root for them.
It's also a good way to see that it's a good book because no one is purely good or purely
Right.
evil. There's good and bad in everyone. So
That's
that's clever. So
Yeah.
that sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very good. I should mention that the main character rides both sides of the fence too, because she is a renegade, but she's also an anarchist. So she has
Playing
to
both teams.
and
The
she
Severus Snape.
and she kind of dabbles in both philosophies, you know,
That's cool.
the good and the bad. But is the bad bad, or is it really just freedom of expression?
Gray zone.
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay. This one is The Lovely War by Julie Berry, and I love Julie Berry. She writes some beautiful picture books and YA books, and I don't know if she has any adult books yet, but she's awesome. So this one melds together like history and
Mythology.
mythology. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Yeah. So it starts off with, what's her name? Aphrodite. No?
Right? I think
I
Aphrodite.
think Aphrodite. Yes.
Because she's married to
Yes,
Hephaestus,
yes.
who's like,
Yeah. So it starts off with
The son of Zeus
Aphrodite
and Hera.
in like this hotel, and she's with Apollo, and
Good
her
ones.
husband Hephaestus comes up, and she's put on trial for like cheating on him, kind of, and she's trying to convince them that love is real, and like not to give up on it, and how she's loved deeper than anyone else, but she doesn't know if she loves people as purely as some of the people that she's helped. So she tells two love stories. One is a girl and a boy, and the boy was just drafted into World War II, and so the girl joins the nurse corps, so she's like close to him and everything. And then the other one is when she's there, she meets a singer from Paris who's a girl, and then she meets this guy who's in one of the all-black battalions of performers that travel around during World War II. So it's really interesting to see both the mythology and the history happening and how they're all intertwined together. And it's beautiful, and I cried,
Aw.
and I laughed, and I loved it. It was so good. And
Yeah.
the audiobook is really cool, too, because the stories are told from the perspective of Aphrodite, Apollo, Hades, and Ares. So, like, it talks about music with Apollo, and war with Ares, and death with Hades, and love with Aphrodite. So it's just so good.
Oh.
I love it.
That's going on my list.
Yeah, it's so good.
it's so inventive.
And it's actually one of the, is it one of the Florida Teen Reads?
I don't know.
I think it is one of the Florida Teen Reads. Yes, it is one of the Florida Teen Reads this year, so yeah.
Awesome.
Great. Okay, so my last series that I'm going to talk about is this one by Ray Carson.
It looks good.
Walk on Earth, a Stranger. So this is a couple years old now. 2015 is when this came out, so all three of them are already out. It's a trilogy as well. And it, I thought, was another really inventive one. Apparently I really like historical fiction, I don't know. So Leah Westphal is the main character. It's got a part where she's pretending to be a boy, so I kind of like that trope going on in my books too sometimes, where people don't realize that she's a girl, but she's traveling to California to find gold. So it's like during the gold rush era, and she has a magical power, which is that she can sense gold. So
Oh,
she
cool.
can just like feel it and call to it. So obviously that's really valuable
Yeah.
in a teammate if you're trying to find gold, right? But she starts out and her parents are killed, so she's kind of fleeing her evil uncle, and so he's also kind of chasing her, so that element is going on too. And then the love interest in the book is part Native American, so there's that going on as well as far as class, race issues. It's really good though. It was really good, and I listened to the audiobook and I really liked that. And we have all three on Cloud Library.
Oh, awesome.
Sounds good. And it's like, oh, if someone discovers her ability, then are they going to like try and capture her to make her find the gold?
Right.
And then it's like, ooh.
So her uncle, she kind of realizes, like, I think my uncle might suspect something is going on with me, and yeah, he wants to use her for his own
Right.
gain.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
who can
so
you really
she's
trust when you have
Yeah.
a
Right,
partner
and so
like
she
that?
doesn't, she's with this group and they're traveling, and of course that becomes like her new family, but she doesn't know for a long time, can I trust these people
Right.
with my secret? And if I do, then they're in danger as well. So, it was
Sounds
good.
awesome.
That sounds really good.
I like historical fiction, so that's right up my
Yeah.
alley.
Me too. Okay, well, all right, this one is called Plus One by Elizabeth Fama, and it's a really good one. It's kind of futuristic and it's dystopian. So, well, it's dystopian, but it's masquerading as a utopia because you've got
Ooh,
our
okay.
society way in the future where you've got I'm so sorry. You've got the girl named Soul, and she is a smudge, and the smudge are the people who are allowed to live and work at night. They can't come out during the day. And they're supposed to be sleeping during the day, and they actually make them take this drug that puts them to sleep during the day. So they never see the sun, and they never go swimming in a pool or anything like that. They're always working. They're pretty much the slaves. And then you've got the rays who come out in the sun, and they go to the same school, but you've got the one guy, the ray guy. He does it during the day, and then she comes at night. And these two start to form a story together on their desk. They start to draw pictures on their desk to each other. And he draws pictures of the sun and the forest and everything. And then she goes and she shades over everything to make it look like the forest at night.
Oh,
and the
that's so
moon and
cool.
everything. It's
Oh, I
really
like
nice. And then when they meet, their worlds collide and they realize a whole government conspiracy. It just gets even better. It's really good, and it has a very satisfying ending.
Awesome.
And it's a standalone?
It is a standalone.
That's always nice.
Yes, I really like that.
It sounds interesting. I'm not huge into like dystopian, post-apocalyptic type things, but that sounds very intriguing. So,
This one is
your favorite?
my favorite. I love it. Maybe a little too timely right now. This is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's Masque of the Red Death, and it's set. It doesn't really say exactly when it's set, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't say the exact year. Does it? I might be lying to you.
Are you an unreliable narrator?
I am an unreliable narrator. I am very sorry. Okay, well, I don't remember if it says a specific date, but it's kind of set during the time of the Black Plague. Like, there's a plague upon everyone, and like everyone has to wear like these gas masks when they go out in the street because there's just like sick people lining the street. And there's this nightclub where she goes in it, and it's kind of very similar to I can't remember the names of the people.
It's got a beautiful cover.
It's beautiful. Who
Yeah.
is the Prospero? Prospero has a castle, and at his in the original tale by Edgar Allan Poe, everyone's invited to Prospero's castle for this huge ball, and there's like all these different rooms, and like at the stroke of midnight, like people die and stuff. And in this one, he throws a party at his castle where people don't have to wear masks because his castle's free of the disease. So like crazy things happen.
This is really sounding like
Yeah.
current events.
I know,
It's freaking
it
me out.
is. It's so good. I love Edgar Allan Poe so
Yeah.
much. So this is like a reimagining for like teenagers of like a story that's kind of like hard to understand sometimes because Poe writes like very prolifically. And this is the first one. There's 2 of them, and they're really fast reads, and they're really, really, really good.
Nice.
I love them.
Right.
All right, well, I am so excited to try out some of these other books
Yes.
that you guys
Yes.
recommended.
Definitely.
My
I have one
to-be
more.
read list is
Oh,
always
you have
growing. I forgot you had one more. Sorry,
I just
go
have
ahead.
one more, I'm sorry. And I know I really wanted to talk about this one because there is a movie out. It's been made into a movie. It's Every Day by David Levithan. And it's great
I
because
was reading a Leviathan.
Not David Leviathan.
that sounds better.
I was like,
Leviathan.
oh, I was like, it's
Sorry,
gonna be about an
David Levithan.
octopus or a kraken, and you're like, oh, wait, I thought that was the
No.
title.
It's another romance, but it's like a mind warp romance because the main character, A, is neither female nor male. He's a soul. For me, I'm gonna say he's a he. He's a soul, and he wakes up in a different body every single day.
Oh, that's so
Oh.
cool.
Yes, it is very interesting. It's heartbreaking too in some instances too, because
I
he'll
can
wake up
imagine.
in a body where the teenager's depressed, or he'll wake up in a mother's body where she's just so run down and so tired, and she's being abused by the husband. I mean, it's some of it's really deep stuff,
Ooh.
really dark stuff. But he meets this girl named Rhiannon, and he sees something in her, and she sees something in him. And no matter what body he's in, he can travel from one end of the United States to the other just to see her and get to her in time before he clicks out and he goes into another body.
Oh, wow.
Just to see her, and she automatically knows it. She looks in his eyes. It doesn't matter if green eyes, blue eyes, red eyes. She
Demonic person.
Black
and
sleep.
she knows who it is.
Like a sleep.
And it's really great. And it has a sequel too. that came out, I think last year, and I haven't read it yet because honestly, I'm dreading reading the sequel because the first one was so good.
Right.
And
Oh, I've done
sometimes
that
you
with
have
Patrick
such a
Rothfuss's
good
books.
first book, and then the sequel might be like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be disappointed.
The ending is good, but you may hate me because it will not be the ending you want, but it's good.
It means
Okay.
they're not going to end up together, because that would be the...
Or maybe you don't like them the whole time and then they do and you're
I
like,
mean, how could if that person, they continue on waking up in a new body every day, how can they really be together?
Right.
You know.
Right. Some of that is answered in the sequel, just a little bit, because spoiler alert, you find out that there's more than one A.
No spoilers.
no spoilers! No!
There's more than one A.
That's all I'm
All right,
saying.
stop
There's
there.
a lot
Okay.
more, but there's
Okay,
you
I need
find
to
that
read
out
it.
in the end of this book too,
Okay.
sort of, sort
Okay.
of, but not really.
Stop. Tag your spoilers. What are you
Sorry,
doing? At
too many
least you tagged
spoilers.
it.
But you'll see it in the movie because the movie, from what I've read from the reviews, does not always follow the book so well. So
Yeah.
I don't want to read I don't want to watch the
eternal
movie
struggle.
either.
Yes.
So we have romance, adventure, dystopian, grief,
Saw.
That's like its own
historical
genre.
fiction.
Great
Yes.
fantasy.
Hopefully a little bit of everything for you
Yes.
guys. And next week we'll have a whole new batch of everything we've been reading.
Yeah.
So let us know what you've been reading. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.